I'm here to tell you a little bit about the story of starting Boulder Food Rescue. Like it was announced, we are only 4 years old, and we really just started from an idea, and now we are an organization that has worldwide influence just in a matter of 4 years. And I did not expect this to happen. So it's kind of fun. I'm just going to tell you the origin story of what happened and talk a little bit about what impact means to me. So it started when I was learning about food waste. I was in school at CU Boulder, and I studied environmental ethics, and I was learning about the food system, and I thought that food was kind of this like really interesting thing because it's very tangible, because we eat every day. Y'all are eating right now, so you're making an influence on the food system. And so when I was learning about the food system, I learned that we spend 10% of our national energy budget producing food. We spend 50% of our land use resources. We spend 80% of our freshwater resources producing food, and then we throw away nearly half of it. Up to 40% of the food in this country gets thrown away. And this is good food. This isn't just like moldy, disgusting food that's like already been eaten. We're talking like healthy, organic fruits and vegetables being thrown away in every city in the US right now. And so that upset me. And then I also learned about food insecurity. 1 in 6 people in this country don't have access to healthy and culturally appropriate foods. So that's kind of a big deal. So it started really just with talking to a few friends. A group of 5 of us got together. We started doing research in our community. We talked to our local food bank, and we started understanding some of the systems that were going on in Boulder, Colorado. We learned that food banks have a really interesting model where they take food from grocery stores, take them back to a warehouse, sort them, and then redistribute them. So in that time, 3 to 5 days can pass, and so things specifically like fruits and vegetables that are more perishable are going to go bad. We also learned that there was enough food going to waste in Boulder and Broomfield County to feed every hungry person in Boulder and Broomfield County simply off of food waste. But there were huge gaps in the food redistribution system. So we started by talking to a grocery store. Started with one store, 1 day a week, to convince them to donate their food, focusing specifically on fruits and vegetables. And we said, okay, if it's going to take some time to go to a warehouse and then sort and then redistribute, why don't we just take it directly to people to be eaten that day? So we started this model to go directly to individuals that day to repurpose the food. And we decided to have a meal. We got together, we cooked the food, and we would go out to the park and basically give food away for free to anybody that wants it. Lots of homeless individuals and low-income individuals come, but it's basically a free meal in the park. A couple things that kind of came out of that meal. One was that people told me it was the healthiest meal they got all week. And so that triggered something in me to say, well, why are we doing one meal? Why don't we just start a food redistribution organization and get healthy food to all of the meals being served and all the food pantries and other food access resources? The second thing that people told me is that they enjoyed our meal because we sat down and ate with them. So it wasn't about us coming in and serving them or serving the poor. It was about all of us coming together to cook, to clean, to serve, to eat together, and we sit down and eat in a park. And those two things really influence the values of this organization. We're going to focus on healthy food, and we want to do participatory work. We really want to work with the people that are most affected by these issues to come up with a solution that works for them instead of just assuming a need. And so this is an asset-based approach. Instead of seeing a community and seeing the deficits in that community and coming in and trying to fill those deficits, we really look at the assets of each community and really work with people to use what they're good at to like form things that work for them. And so that meal in the park is fun because it's actually now just a side project. Tomorrow I'm going to do it. I'm going to go sit down in a park and eat it with a bunch of people. But it's really just kind of helped influence the values of Boulder Food Rescue, which is a whole different organization that redistributes food to 35 different organizations all around Boulder. Oh, and then lastly, we decided to do as much food redistribution as possible by bicycle, because we figured if food's going to waste blocks away from where people need it, then driving cars is kind of silly. And so we have a whole group of people that are biking food around. If you're ever in Boulder and you see trailers with boxes full of food, with goofy-looking people having fun and sweating, that's us. Say hi. And so we grew. We grew to be an organization picking up from one grocery store 1 day a week to picking up from 5 grocery stores 7 days a week within the matter of 6 months. And that's when we kind of realized this is maybe a big deal and people actually really want and need this food. and we grew to an organization to have 100 volunteers within the matter of a year. We then asked the question, who's not accessing this food, and what barriers exist? So through that kind of research and talking to low-income housing sites and other organizations that serve low-income people but don't really work with food, we discovered that there are some huge barriers that still exist to accessing food pantries and meals. Mobility is one of those, mobility and transportation, and so that really affects the senior population. Paperwork can really affect the undocumented population or Latino populations. Times of day that the food pantries are open really affects the working poor. Stigma is a huge thing that affects everybody. And so we started trying to understand how can we just cut down on the barriers to accessing food pantries. We still donate to food pantries, but then we also created this model that we now call the grocery program, where we work with individuals who live at low-income housing sites to set up basically free food pantries in their community rooms of low-income housing sites. And this is also a participatory model. We work with the individuals to best meet their needs, and they're really responsible for redistributing the food to their neighbors. And so that's actually like a truly innovative thing that hasn't happened in the food redistribution world yet, which is pretty exciting. And we get to form relationships with the people that we work with, which is really why I do this work. So now we're an organization with 100 active volunteers. We redistribute over 1,000 pounds of healthy food per day in Boulder alone, from 15 donors to 35 different recipient sites. And we've redistributed 1.3 million pounds of food in the last 4 years, 88% of which has been done by bicycle. Thanks. And that picture is a picture of 786 pounds on one bike trailer. I don't know how she did it. It is a female individual that's maybe about my size that did that pickup. And I think what's really neat is all of those stats are for what we've done in Boulder alone, but we also got a little bit of national press, and some of our volunteers just moved to other cities and wanted to start food rescue programs in their towns. And so now we have a network that we call the Food Rescue Alliance. And this is a peer learning network amongst a whole bunch of different organizations across the country and then and beyond, from the Front Range to Seattle to Charlotte, New York. We have an organization, and then there's an organization in Ontario, Nicaragua, and there was a group of students that came through last summer that I taught this little how to start your own food rescue workshop, really focused on like how to do community organizing, and food rescue is just like one example of that. And they moved back to their hometown in the Philippines and started a food rescue there. So we are an organization that basically tries to share next and best practices. Food Rescue Alliance is really just a program, it's a network. We all have similar values to focus on healthy food, to focus on participatory models, direct redistribution, but we really encourage diversity because we really want people to be working with the communities to best serve those communities. And we know that food waste happens across the country and beyond. We know that food insecurity happens everywhere, but it looks really different and it feels really different. And so we really want to encourage diversity of models so that we're working with each community to meet their needs. So when I think about impact, what it all boils down to, for me, is building relationships with people. When I need to get inspired, I go talk to the people that we work with. And when I think about any type of change work, it comes down to building relationships, because ultimately I need to build trust within my community to really be amplifying the voice of the people most affected by the issue. And relationships is what it all boils down to, and food is just the tool. Food is just our language. We're building relationships, and for me right now, food is our language. And then the second thing I think of when I think of impact is taking action. Going out, having fun, and just doing something. I'm a little embarrassed to say this, but we don't sit down and have long meetings about like our vision for the future all the time. Sometimes we just have to go out and we have to try something, and then we have to fail, and then we have to get together and learn from that lesson, and go out and we have to try something, we have to fail again, and then go out and learn from that lesson, and we just grow that way. And I think people are really inspired by action. And so that's what impact for me ultimately boils down to. So just real quick, if you want to get involved with Boulder Food Rescue, you can. We're looking for new board members. You can contribute your skills, ideas, passions. We actually are a really inclusive community when it comes to volunteering with us. We're open to lots of different ideas. We have corporate sponsorships available. We're funded by the community, individual donors that give money to us to help us keep going. And so anything that you do to contribute, or just spread the word, because we just want to get our name out there. And I really want to thank you all so much for listening to me talk for 10 minutes and putting on this awesome event. Thanks.